I'd like to start out by doing our sound check to make sure everybody can hear us. So if we could check in with downtown.
Downtown can hear you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Polytechnic?
Thank you.
Thanks.
We can hear you just fine, thank you.
Okay, thanks. And then Tempe?
Okay, we're good here.
All right, thanks. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. So I'd like to welcome everyone to our third Senate meeting of the year. Again, I'm Brenda Hosley, and I'm the University Senate President and Chair of the University Academic Council. And so if Chuck would put up the question, and then we will see if we have a quorum. Okay, so answer either A, B, C, or D. See how knowledgeable you are about. So. Okay, has everyone had an opportunity to vote? Okay, Chuck, if you would close the question. Okay, I am nearsighted and I don't have my glasses on, so somebody else is going to have to tell me what the numbers say. Okay. Okay, 5 people say they're never contagious. What's the second one? Okay, 34. Okay. Okay, so it's, as long as you have symptoms, you are contagious. And so it's from sniffle to sniffle. And for the last one, antibiotics are never to be used with the flu or with a cold because they are viruses, and antibiotics do not work with viruses. So you're just going to mess yourself up. So don't go to your doctor and demand antibiotics if you have the flu or a cold. Okay. So I think we have a quorum given those numbers. Oh, that was a good question. It was like all over the place. It's like with the students. Okay, so a couple of housekeeping items regarding the technology. If we lose video with the other campuses but maintain audio, the meeting will continue. If we lose audio, we'll take a 10-minute recess to see if the audio can be restored. If not, after 10 minutes, the meeting is adjourned. So nobody go around and try to kick the cables to unplug us. Okay, we're going to have several informational reports, and our first informational report is going to be from James O'Donnell, who is our university librarian. And so I'd like to ask Jim to come to the front in Tempe. So Jim began as our librarian in February of 2015, and he's also a professor in the School of Historical, Philosophical, and Religious Studies. And so he's going to share with us his vision for ASU's libraries.
Thank you, Brenda, and my apologies. It feels as though I'm turning my back on you, and I don't mean to do that. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out. Brenda and colleagues, thank you for inviting me to join you. I came to ASU on the 6th of February. Been here, therefore, a little bit less than a year. Came here for many reasons, but chief among them was that I was challenged by the president to imagine inventing a new university library for the new American university. We're progressing in that direction, and there will be much news, I think, from us in the years to come. For right now today, with a short period of time, I'm going to say 3 things, and then I understand we will open the floor to questions for a few minutes. The first and decisive fact about university libraries today generally, but especially in this extraordinarily large, diverse, and far-flung institution, is that we need to stop thinking of the buildings we have on our campuses as if they were the library or the libraries. Because my continuing mantra is that at Arizona State University today, it is already the case for the libraries, whatever it is in other units of the institution, that every student is primarily an online student. Yes, we see 1.5 million people coming in and out of Hayden every year. We see another 1 million coming in and out of Noble. We welcome them. They use our facilities. They even use our collections. But the bulk of the time students spend in our buildings are not spent using our material collections. When they're using our collections in our buildings, they're probably using them on their laptops, just as some of you may even be doing right now. That means we need to change our model of what we're doing, who we're doing it for, and how we're doing it. Particularly with our ambitions for extensive online student participation, we need to be able to provide the very best and most comprehensive of our services and materials to all of our users wherever they may happen to be. I'm proud we're living up to that commitment right now. If you are a barista in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and you want a book from the ASU library because you've enrolled in our degree program, we will, in fact, mail it to you. We are that committed to making sure our students have what they need. Long term, of course, greater electronic delivery is vital. In the medium term, there are legal, copyright, and business arrangement restrictions on that. We will be fighting against those restrictions. We're designing new systems for what we call discovery services, ways you have of finding out what we have in our extraordinarily rich collections, and ways of delivering that material to you as rapidly and efficiently as possible. This means a different kind of job for librarians. It means we need to think about our online users as our primary customers. Second thing I want to say, though, is our physical facilities don't go away. This is a moment of opportunity to reinvent them as meeting places, show places, convening spaces, and workspaces for students and faculty on all our campuses. 3 headlines in that regard are, first, that thanks to the misfortune of a flood in Noble Library last spring, we had the opportunity to spend about $5 million bringing that building back into shape. It's in better condition than it's been before. For the other things we are going to do, we almost should have planned to spend about $5 million on Noble at this point, but we didn't. But something like good luck or bad luck intervened, and we got to do that. If you haven't been in the revived Noble, you should stop in someday. Even just what they've done with the lighting has really animated and enlivened the space, and you will see it thronged as before with students. We still have some renovations going on to improve the functionality of the space and contribute further to student success in those spaces. We are on the point just this week of issuing contract to design and build additional high-density storage facility space. You may or may not know that we have 1.5 million volumes now on a building on the edge of the Poly campus. These new modules will increase that capacity by 3 million. That will enable us to house the bulk of our physical collection there and treat it as what our president likes to call our fulfillment center, delivering the physical materials to students and faculty on all of our campuses or wherever they may happen to be. And as we are able to do more of that delivery digitally, to do it even more rapidly than we do at the present time. When that work is done by the end of 2016, we will be ready for the big one. We are charged by the President to work aggressively toward planning for a complete gut and renovation of Hayden Library. It's 49 years old. It needs it badly in a variety of ways. I look forward to that opportunity as a time in which we can learn how to change the way we do our business by being forced to do without the very large building on the center of the campus. And when we bring that building back online sometime in, fingers crossed, good Lord willing, the creek don't rise, 2018, if we can make an aggressive schedule, then it will be that showplace, showcase, and showroom for the university, its academic achievement, and it will be a working home for our students from across the Tempe campus to pursue their success in Arizona State University. Third and last thing to say is that when we do that, it will be the opportunity to reinvent as well what the physical print collection on open stacks in our central library buildings should be like. Right now, we have a history of wedging everything into the building until the building bursts, and then we take the overflow and put it somewhere else, and measure entirely on statistics of usage. I am committed that we are going to work with faculty to think coherently about just how large and just what kind of print collection should be in our buildings, how we put that collection to best use for our students and faculty, how we keep it alive and functioning. In a draft 5-year plan that I'm working on with President and Provost, I say that the print book has a long and glorious future ahead of it. I believe that, but it will also be a future that will differ in marked ways from the past that print book has had. I look forward to us being thought leaders in imagining how that print culture continues to work and flourish in a great university, even while the bulk of library services, the bulk of library materials come to people in non-traditional ways. I could do and say more. There is much more to be said about the way in which our staff is evolving, some positions that we are posting and filling at the present time to bring in the new experts, the new leaders who will carry us forward through this period. But I think for limits of time and for the strategic importance of the things I've said, this is the point at which I should pause and ask if you have questions. Before I do that, I will say one last thing, however, which is that a librarian can get lonely in his corner office. A librarian never gets enough email, and particularly never gets enough email from faculty. I'm quite serious when I say that quite beyond the bounds of this meeting, I always welcome contact with my faculty colleagues. My email address is as simple as it comes, jod@asu.edu, and you will surely bring a smile to my face if you help me while away the time in that office. So thank you. Floor open for questions. I defer to the local culture for management of that. Brenda?
Okay, yes. Can we go to downtown? Does downtown have any questions? And if so, would you identify yourself and your unit?
No questions from downtown. Thank you, Brenda.
Thanks, Kristen. Polytechnic?
So we were wondering.
Are we online?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No.
We were just wondering, did we hear it correctly that Poly will be the fulfillment center for everything while the renovations are in place? Is that correct?
I would say near everything. The bulk of the physical collection will be at the high-density facility that's really on the edge of the Poly campus. You out there probably know where it is. Because we do expect right now to be closing Hayden completely, removing all of the books from the building and doing the whole tower of Hayden. The underground levels will stay open. But doing the whole tower in one concerted, aggressive renovation. You save money and you get better work when you do that. There will be a couple of exceptions. We are still discussing what happens to special collections, how we maintain access to those. And there are a couple of physical collections, such as the East Asian, that have rather special needs, and we're working out what alternatives there may be. But for a period of time, Poly will be where it's at. And for the long term, I think it's fair to say that that high-density facility will be our core fulfillment center for the whole system.
These are exciting plans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions at Poly?
Any other?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, West Campus.
Can't hear.
Campus. This is Martin Matustik, President of ASU West Senate. Do we have any plans for online storage facilities? Are we going to buy them from Amazon or somebody, in Texas, or are we going to use some of our land? We will need a lot of space for books that are not physically housed.
For right now, that's a question as much of the business models of publishers as anything else. Most of what we access in digital form is coming to us hosted on the servers of publishers with whom we deal. That's complicated and problematic. But we do have the basics of a digital repository for ASU, and we will be expanding that as a place in which to hold and curate university research data. You may know, depending on your field of work, that the NSF in particular is requiring higher standards of data curation and management and data preservation from projects that have been supported by NSF, and we look forward to that. For right now, we can handle that within spaces now owned and controlled by the libraries and UTO, but it's an issue for the future. That Poly location has got some more land. If we needed to go someplace, that's the first place I would suggest we look, but we don't have any detailed discussions on that yet.
Okay. And Tempe, if you come to the mic if anyone has a question.
Well, coming to the mic, let me just say for our downtown colleagues that we are well aware that the pressure of many more students coming to downtown will require us to do something about the facilities there that are now in the basement of the University Center. That it's something that I remind senior administration of regularly, but it's inevitably taking second place in the priority chain to what we do now and will be part of the overall downtown planning. Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Mary. I'm from the School of Art. I was wondering, when are you starting the renovations? I missed that part.
Oh, you designedly missed that part.
Okay.
If we are lucky, if the money can come together, then in the end of 16, we would move books. We'd be in a position to move books to Poly, and that's the point at which we could turn the building over to more or less then. It would take a couple of months to turn the building over for renovation. That's a very aggressive schedule. I'm under instructions to work to that schedule until instructed otherwise. We'll see what can happen. Once the balloon goes up, it's probably about a year and a half from evacuation of building to reopening. You'd try to slot that into the academic year. There are variables there. If I'm optimistic, I think fall of 18 we could be opening a new Hayden, and I'm supposed to be optimistic, but it might take longer.
Okay. And then
I don't take that as the most encouraging chuckle I've heard from behind me anytime, but I am required to be optimistic, and I can salute and be optimistic. Yes, ma'am.
I have another question. So you said the tower is being renovated, but
Yeah.
the underground's staying open.
It will stay
So
open.
stacks are going to stay open, or?
Well, no, the stacks, the only stacks in the underground now are the East Asian collection. There's complicated reasons why that's there.
Okay.
And some very current periodicals that we will be moving out.
Okay.
I expect there will also be work done on the underground floors, but it's not urgent, and you can separate the tower, which is 49 years old, from that which is 26 years old. Keep it open as classroom space and study space. We'll use Noble aggressively. We are looking at where else on the Tempe campus we can provide students as working, gathering, and study space for an interim. That's all part of, indeed, the money and the planning for just how we can pull this off.
Great. And then one last question. We send our students to look at lab pictures. So what's going to happen in the renovations in terms of exhibition spaces? You mentioned that there'll be some exhibition spaces, and can you give me some clearer idea on what those might be?
During the renovation period, that will depend a little bit on whether and what kind of alternate space we get. But we're already doing some things we haven't done before in Hayden. If you haven't been in lately, we've got a new area we've set aside for exhibition. We did a nice project with the Creative Writing Program for their 30th anniversary. For the first time in anybody's memory, we actually had an event outdoors in the moat one evening, and it was quite successful. We're looking for ways, while we're in the old spaces, to use them experimentally and tentatively. I would turn this around a little bit to you and say, you got any good ideas? Call me. We're looking for good ideas, and if we can push the envelope a little bit, we'd love to try. Okay, I'll hold you to that.
Cynthia Tompkins in Silk. My question is, what are you going to do on the towers? Can you tell us? Can you be more specific about the show and, you know,
Sure.
this glitzy place?
A core feature of the work will be simply to rationalize the building, open up a lot of the chopped up little spaces, and take advantage of the space vacated where we won't be doing stacks. Features of the new building will certainly include a lot of student and group study, individual study, quiet study space. Certainly will include special collections reading room, special collections showroom, and exhibit spaces for that. I imagine the first floor, the main floor of the building, which will now be opened to the outside again, with a door facing Memorial Union and a door facing the Katy Mall, as an exhibit space and special collections introduction to the building. We will also probably have a floor that will be devoted to support of high-end technology-supported research. We've got positions we're posting now for Geospatial Research Center. We've been working with the School of Geography on that. We're talking to all of the deans about possibility of a big data analytics center that would serve all of the academic units and help people connect the dots between geospatial, government docs, all the things that are in our collection, data sets people bring to the space, and we will keep that flexible. I'm also talking to Sally Kitch and the Institute for Humanities Research about how we can coordinate with their space planning. I don't want to go into too many details, but they're looking to be aggressive about a humanities lab. Some of that may happen in the tower, some of that may happen someplace else. We will play along closely with that. Long run, one of the things we've learned from looking at the old building is that you tend to over-architect a building according to the services you're now offering. And I've been saying we're trying to make it more open, modular, flexible, so that 5 years from now, when somebody is standing here saying, remember geospatial when that was hot? That's like so 2015. We can be pushing on to the next thing where bringing high-tech talent and high-tech equipment together can be of the most importance for the institution.
Hi, Chris Jones from Shippers. Obviously, these are trends libraries across the country are facing. The other big trend libraries across the country are facing is declining funding, and I'm wondering how these plans are related with the funding you're getting from the university, and if you can talk about some of those trends.
Right now, I'm happy with the support that we're getting from the university. I have committed to getting back to senior administration within a year about just how happy we can really be long-term. No library will tell you that it's been overfunded for the past. But Sherry Schmidt, my predecessor, who was an old friend I've known for 20 years, did us the favor of leaving some positions vacant, putting some interims in place so that we've got some flexibility for right now. And there is support from the president and provost as well. For right now, we think we can do what we need to do and do it well. But we also have reason to be aggressive with, for example, our publishing vendors to find better deals than we now get and to save some money. I'm going to a conference in 2 weeks in which I have to sit down with a representative of some press or other and have a little heart-to-heart. They said this year's raise is going to be 11%. 11% increase on a bill of $100,000 is just too much. And we have to work with our partners and colleagues nationally to do that. We are very much involved with, for example, the Association of Research Libraries, which is 120 of the institutions like us in the U.S. and Canada that does a good job of representing us in a variety of these conversations as well. Thanks very much.
Okay. Is that all the questions?
I think one more, maybe, Brenda?
Yeah. Is there still somebody?
Just one. Yep. Let's do one more.
This is for Dr. Samuelson from Religious Studies. He wants to know what's going to happen to the reserve books for the time that the building's under construction.
The likeliest primary alternate space is Noble. But again, the underground area where you now get reserve books in the Hayden complex will also remain open. This is a detail. The service will continue, and it will be central to the Tempe campus. It's also a service that is in transition as we can offer more digital forms of delivery of reserve materials. We just signed a contract with an organization that promises to be able to deliver online reserve resources cleared of copyright when need be, more efficiently, folded into Blackboard, folded into your course management system with a very good interactive interface for faculty. So you'll be able to sit down with your list of readings, assign them. If we've already got them, you don't have to, nobody has to pay for them. If you're assigning something that copyright needs to be cleared and a fee needs to be done, it will be done more automatically. That may mean we have to handle fewer books at reserve, but we'll see. We will deliver the service.
All right. Thank you very much, Jim.
Okay.
We really appreciate you coming.
Thank you again, Brenda.
Next, I'd like to ask Ray Anderson to come forward. Ray is the VP for University Athletics at ASU. Ray joined ASU in January of 2014. He came to us from the National Football League, And Ray, I've asked to share with us how he envisions ASU athletics and academics coexisting here at ASU.
Thank you, Brenda. And thank you for the invite. I look out and see some familiar faces, so that's going to mean that some of what I say is going to be repetitious to some of you, because I don't have a new stick every time I talk about what the vision is. And so to those of you who've heard some of this before, that's by design, because I come from the coaching world, and what they know and will tell you is that consistency in the reps actually gets you a better performance on game night. So I'm going to be consistent. So when I was given the opportunity to come here by President Crow, I was given 4 charges. And the first was to make sure we graduate our student athletes, and we graduate them at the very highest level possible. The second one is that we want to win consistently here, and we want to compete from championships in all the sports. We're not just a football or basketball university. All the sports matter, all the sports, men, women, Olympic sports, the major sports. So we want to win consistently, and we want to compete for championships at ASU. And then the third charge was win within the rules. Be compliant, win within the rules of the NCAA and within the rules and policies of this institution. And then the fourth charge was to build affinity, which means engage your students, engage your faculty, engage your staff, engage your community in ways that we had not been doing before in terms of attendance and community service, and financial support for our program. So those were the 4 charges from Dr. Crow. And so what we as a unit really want to make sure that folks hopefully understand and appreciate is that faculty, staff, administration are all critically important to us accomplishing our mission. Sun Devil Athletics does not desire to be a standalone, a siloed, or some pompous entity across campus. That's not what we want to be. That's certainly not under my leadership what we will be. Instead, we want to be a good partner with the university. We want to work cross campus to really collaborate and be effective, because we've got to deliver to our student athletes an elite experience. And so when it comes to admissions and educational outreach and student services and counseling and student conduct and working with our Sun Devil Athletic Board, or some members in here, and working with our faculty athletic rep, Professor Jeffrey Wilson and Kevin McGraw, to make sure that we're collaborating across campus in every conceivable way to be a good partner, because that will help us fulfill the mission and the goals and the obligation we have to our student athletes. So we want to be a real solid teammate and partner of every department in this university. The academic experience here is first and foremost. We are in very good hands under the leadership of Gene Boyd, who is our Senior Associate Athletic Director. He's in charge of our Office of Student Athlete Development. And the focus that Gene and his group have brought to Sun Devil Athletics, starting way before my arrival, so I can take no credit for this other than to tell you that I have been just honored and blessed to really have inherited Gene Boyd as the head of that unit. So let me give you some of the accomplishments that have been made by our student athletes, and it's the work of Gene Boyd, but equally important, it's the work of everybody in this room and the folks who work in your units who really provide that academic, robust experience that our student athletes not only need, but they deserve from this institution. So the current NCAA graduation rate for Sun Devil Athletics is 82%, and that is our all-time high, and we will announce next spring that we are going to be at 84%. And that for major college athletics is quite positive. our grade point average for student athletes is 3.04. And that is at the end of the 2014-15 academic year. And it's the sixth consecutive semester that our student athletes were over 3.0, and that had never been achieved before the spring of 2012. Pac-12 Scholar Athletes of the Year, ASU was second in the conference with 29 Pac-12 Scholar Athletes of the Year, second only to Stanford. In football, in 2 years in a row, we've had Taylor Kelly last year and this year Mike Bercovici be named as finalists for the National Football Foundation Campbell Trophy, and that's the academic version of the Heisman. And so two of our football players, both happen to be quarterbacks, 2 years in a row are now being honored for their academic excellence. In terms of academic All-Americans, Sun Devils have produced 23 academic All-Americans, 73 I should say, since 2000, and that is the second in the Pac-12 and the seventh nationally in Division I athletics. And we had 3 more this year. We are the leaders in the Pac-12 in the Arthur Ashe Awards, and that is the Minority Students Awards for those achieving high performance academically in the community and athletics. We lead the conference in number of Arthur Ashe recipients. And then our academic progress rate this year was at 986. That's an all-time high. And that was the second in the Pac-12. And we had 7 of our teams publicly recognized from having 1,000 in those scores. So these performances by our student athletes are a combination of multiple folks really committing and being there for our student athletes. And folks in this room and the folks who work with you and for you are just critical to that. So we thank you for that. What we've declared and what we really want to be at Sun Devil Athletics is we want to be a proud contributor to the academic excellence at ASU. And so we are recruiting and our coaches are demanding of our student athlete academic excellence, or very frankly, you're not going to compete here very long. We're not a party school. We're not that school of, at least was perceived 15, 20 years ago. So when we recruit and we talk to parents and we talk to coaches and we talk to third-party supporters of our student athletes come in, we really do emphasize the academic excellence here as indicated by the Barrett Honors College and all the wonderful departments and programs that we have here. We're very proud of being able to do that. When we have the opportunity to sit down and talk with recruits and their parents and their support group when they come in, and we spend a lot of time, I spend a lot of time in the recruiting efforts. They come in and sit down in my office. We share with the parents and their students what our philosophy is in Sun Devil Athletics. And that philosophy is the surrogate parent philosophy. So we tell parents and we tell students when they come into our office and they sit down and we're talking about what makes us different and how their experience here is going to be, we tell the parents very clearly, here's the deal. When you drop your son and daughter off here at Sun Devil Athletics and you drive away, you're leaving them with surrogate parents. And so here's what that means. We're going to embrace them, and we're going to make sure that everybody who touches their world does so with a commitment of excellence, and we're going to provide them support and encouragement. We're going to love them as if they were our own children. But here's the other side of that equation. We will not baby them. We will not spoil them. We'll not allow them to cheat or cut corners. We will not allow them to think they are entitled. We will not allow them to think that just because they're student athletes that they get breaks that others don't get. We will not have that as part of our deal. And that is our deal. And so while we look to this group to give some accommodations because of their travel and their competition schedules within the rules and within compliance, we don't expect anybody on the academic side of our partnership to give our student athletes any breaks, any slack that they don't deserve under the rules and the policies. And so you are very critical to us fulfilling our promise and our mission as surrogate parents for our student athletes, so we thank you for that. We thank you for that. We have the ability and the will to really be elite. We want to be a top 5 program when you're talking about intercollegiate athletics. And we aspire, very frankly, academically, to reach and surpass my alma mater, Stanford, on the academic side of it. And on the athletic side of it, we want to beat their butts every time we're competing in anything and everything in our men's and women's sports. So that's our vision for Sun Devil Athletics. We believe that the key to delivering all this is having a common thread for what our responsibilities are to these student athletes coming in. You probably know that we've brought in my time here, a year and a half, 7 new varsity head coaches. And when we are identifying that head coach, it's very important that they understand that, first of all, you better be rigorous and dedicated to the academic mission, or you're not going to fit here with us very well and very long at all. And you better sincerely care about the total experience for our student athletes, or it's going to be a short stay for you. And then thirdly, we want folks who want to really help build a program and build an experience for these student athletes that has not existed before on the intercollegiate level. And those are high aspirations, but those are things that we articulate very clearly with our new coaches. They have to at least bring those 3 components to the table to be able to come in and help serve our Sun Devil Athletics and our student athletes who deserve our best. So with that, I'll stop yapping. Happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Well, thanks, Ray. Can we go to downtown? Downtown, do you have any questions?
This is Kristen Hoffner from School of Nutrition and Health Promotion. First of all, I want to thank you for that information. Many of those numbers were extremely impressive, and thanks to the athletic academic advising team that I know works very hard. And my question for you is, do you guys still have the guest coaching program? Because I always recommend that faculty get involved with that program so that they can take a first-hand look at the rigorous schedules of our athletes and how hard they're working.
I don't know if we have the guest coaching program per se, but we are constantly inviting an open door for folks who want to come in and learn about what we're doing there and spend some time with us. So Gene Boyd and his staff do a good job. I must tell you, I don't know per se if the coaching guest program is what it's formally called. What I can tell you is that we seem to have folks around on a very consistent basis, and anyone here or at any of the campuses who would like that opportunity, we have guests come in who are sent by friends of families and donors who are just curious. Certainly would be happy to entertain them at any point.
Thank you. Kristen, are there any other questions from downtown?
No other questions from downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Polytechnic, questions?
No questions from Polytechnic, thank you.
Thanks. West? Okay, no questions from West. Tempe, you'd come to the mic if there were any questions.
I don't see any questions from Tempe. Oh, got one.
Okay. Thank you. Ray, we really appreciate you coming. Oh, wait a minute.
My pleasure, Brenda. Hi.
Hi.
One question.
You talked about community engagement with the athletes. Can you elaborate on that and what that means?
Yes. Every single one of our student athletes were involved in community service projects last year. Every team, I don't have the exact number of community service hours, but in the 2 years that I've been here, they've exceeded the prior year. So that Bill Kennedy and our senior administrators, we have a very robust student outreach program, from going out to the various agencies, to going out to clean up community, to the Sparky Caravan. So we are very, very active in the community, and we feel that's an obligation of our student athletes. I can certainly get you more details. I think you'd be impressed and, more importantly, proud of what our student athletes do. and our staff as well. You're welcome. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ray. We appreciate it. Okay, our last informational report is Jose Cardenas, who's the Senior Vice President and General Counsel at ASU, is going to give us an update on Arizona's gun laws and how they intersect with ASU and the ABOR policies and regulations. And also joining him is going to be Patrick Foster, the Assistant Chief of Police at ASU, who is going to discuss with us any plans that are in place if there's an active shooter on campus.
Thank you. I didn't plan on doing an essay, but what I thought I'd do is give you a few minutes on state law and university policy, and then the Deputy Chief will talk to you about police policies, and then we'll both be available to answer questions. The Board of Regents and the universities derive their authority to regulate weapons on campus from a criminal statute that makes it a crime to interfere with or disrupt an educational institution. That same statute provides, or charges actually, the governing boards of educational institutions with coming up with rules and penalties regulating public order on their properties. It makes a specific reference to weapons and explosives and other devices in the sense that it provides for their forfeiture should they be used in the violation of that statute. So you have a criminal statute that makes it a crime, and then it also gives the authority to the Board of Regents and the boards of other educational institutions to regulate conduct on their campuses. The regents and the universities have done so, and so for many years we have a policy prohibiting weapons on campus. There's a broad prohibition, also makes a violation of the Student Code of Conduct to have weapons or to use or display them. There's a cross-reference in these policies to another state statute, a criminal statute. Actually, oddly enough, it's not in the criminal code. It's in the section on courts that was added, I think, in 2010, that provides that no one can establish or enforce a rule that prohibits someone from having a firearm in their motor vehicle or in a motorcycle as long as it is secured, which for a car means the car's locked. A motorcycle means you have it locked in a secure compartment, and that it's not visible. And so that is the one exception that the ABOR and university policies contemplate. So that's the basics of it. Happy to answer questions after the Deputy Chief Foster has spoken.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for having me here today. I was asked to touch on a couple of things as far as training as it relates to active shooter scenarios. And the training that we have available and the easiest delivery method is through our website or on Blackboard. And that is a series of videos regarding active shooter training. And that can also be accessed through the LiveSafe app. I would encourage everyone, if you don't have the LiveSafe app, it's very functional. It has a lot of different aspects as it pertains to personal safety. However, there is a module on the side where you can look at different scenarios, whether it's active shooter scenarios, emergency preparedness for hazmat situations, and you can access those videos on your tablet or on your cell phone as well. The ASU Police Department has an active shooter policy as far as how our officers and how our staff is supposed to respond to those. It's pretty much in line with most municipal and county and state law enforcement agencies. And as far as the question about like lockdown procedures, going back to the policies on the training side, our officers go through annual training and how to deal with and respond to active shooter scenarios. And one of the things that we think is very important and is we have it coming up actually really soon out at the Poly campus is for those officers to train with the officers from the municipalities where our campuses are. Because those are the folks that are going to be coming to help out when a situation happens. So if we had an unfortunate situation here on the Tempe campus, likely you'd have Tempe showing up in addition to ASU PD, possibly Phoenix if you have Phoenix officers on the east side of their jurisdiction. You could have Mesa, Westside Mesa units respond, Department of Public Safety. So you'd have a lot of people coming together. So we found it's important to have those officers trained together so that you have an understanding of what you guys need to do and how to work together. So we'll be having training with Mesa Police Department, with Phoenix and Glendale for the Westside campus. As far as lockdown procedures, one of the things that if you go to the training and the videos, the philosophy on instructions on how to deal with the workplace violence, active shooter kind of scenario is it's a three-step process or a three-aspect response, and that's run, hide, fight. And the run part is if you have an opportunity to get away from where you are, get away from the threat, do so. Because it's hard. I mean, it shows it's difficult to shoot a moving target. It just is. Ask anybody who's a hunter. They'd probably rather wait till the animal's standing still than running somewhere. And as far as it's hard enough when we have officers that have to go and qualify every year and we shoot 4 times a year, hitting a piece of paper at the end of a target range while it's standing still facing you, not threatening you in any way is difficult enough when there's no pressure other than what you impose on yourself, much less somebody who's threatening you moving away. So run is the first thing, is, you know, run away from the threat. The second one is hide. If you're unable to, just by the building design, the proximity of the shooter or the aggressor, is hide. Try to get yourself in a space. If you have to block a door to keep somebody out. Doors don't lock in the classrooms from inside, but that's by building and fire code because those doors are made for egress so people can get out in an emergency, not so much to keep people in. Questions have come up about some of the buildings being able to lock them, the exterior doors, to keep people from coming in. One of the problems with that, when it was researched across the country, is if you have somebody who's out in the common area who's the aggressor and you have students that are running and they're trying to get away and they try to run into a building, if that door's locked, now they don't have anywhere to go. So while it could keep an aggressor outside of the building, it also could keep potential victims from entering the building as well and trying to seek shelter. And as far as, so hide and turn off lights, make sure that hopefully in your classrooms, if you're teaching, you don't have your students with their volumes up on their phones anyway. I know that's idealistic, but because you don't want, you know, people having, you know, being located because of your electronic devices. At the same time, hopefully everybody is disciplined enough and scared enough in a situation that they're not trying to take selfies and take video of the incident rather than trying to actually hide. It seems sort of comical, but we've had situations, I know when we had I worked for the Mesa Police Department prior to coming here, and we had a highly publicized about a year and a half ago situation where we had a subject went on a shooting spree and killed a few people and everything. One of our victims actually posted a picture of himself after he had been shot prior to having the police and fire department respond to his location. So it happens. But so after hide, we suggest fight. If you're in a situation where you don't have a choice but, or you and the group of people that are with you don't have a choice but to confront the individual, be committed in that confrontation and fight. A phrase we like to use is fight like your life depends on it, because in that situation it does. So be committed, neutralize that threat, and if somebody's there, you tackle them. But it's a situation, if somebody's at that door back there, that's not the time to fight, really, because there's so much distance between you and them. It's a little different. So it's an up close and personal kind of situation. But if you have to fight, fight aggressively and fight until the threat goes away. Once again, I'd like to point out from the awareness side, and watching these videos, a lot of people think, oh, you're not going to learn a whole lot from the videos. You're learning from the educational piece of the videos, but it also gives you an opportunity to run scenarios through your mind. We just completed our Citizens Community Academy for the police department, our first ever. And one of the classes that we taught was cop culture and helping people understand how cops think. So to that is when you're somewhere, and especially in a place, your workplace where you're going to be every day, be familiar with your exit points. Know if you had to get out of a room right now, where would you go? You know, if you're sitting in the back room, the back rows over there, I hope that this door isn't your answer. Okay? Those are the kinds of things that you want to think of if something happens, how am I going to respond? Because a lot of times if you think about it often enough, then you sort of psychologically prepare yourself for the situation. That's it.
Okay, we'll entertain questions. Downtown, do you have any questions?
No questions from downtown. Thank you very much for the information.
Thank you. Polytechnic?
So there's one question about the policies being for students or students and faculty.
I'm sorry, the question is?
Were you able to hear me? The question was, are the policies for students or students and faculty?
Students, faculty, staff, employees, visitors, everybody who's on campus.
Thank you. Any other questions, Keith, at Poly?
Anyone else? No, thank you.
Okay. West Campus?
This is Chad Johnson at the West Campus. Could you tell us how many police officers you have on each campus and how you determine how many to put on each campus?
Off the top of my head, I don't know the exact number of officers that we have at each campus. I know we have 86 sworn officers in the department. We have 2 that are graduating in a couple of weeks from the academy and another one that will graduate in February. The way that the officers are deployed, you know, and our entire staff is based on calls for service in need, based on the activity. So the Tempe campus having the most number of people on it and the most activity is naturally going to have, you know, more officers and more staff than, say, Poly or West. Downtown is, we have our staff there, but then also you have Tempe in close proximity, which works with our folks.
Thank you. We have another question at West.
This is Martin Matustik from the West Campus. I wanted to ask about the parking structure, stature, and the ban on weapons on campus, and whether you can prevent a potential lawsuit. You know, many of our parking structures are embedded within campus, such as Fulton parking is next to bars. It's in campus. We are paying ASU fees. As far as I know, the parking structure is property of the university. I can see a lawsuit. You know, somebody comes, there is a shootout out of the parking lot into the campus. Should we have designated parking lots, weapons-only parking lots? And does it designate parking lots weapons-free? Or is there a conflict between the statutes? You know, I ask as a layperson. I don't understand the law.
Actually, the statute does give you the option of creating designated parking areas. My recollection is that that was considered and decided that it was not a good idea to have a place where everybody knows there's weapons available, and so they didn't do that.
Thank you. Any questions at Tempe?
Yes. Can you hear me okay? All right.
Yes.
My name is Lee Bebo. I'm from the English department. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but last week in the class senate, we voted on a proposal about door locks. The second gentleman that spoke talked about safety in rooms and the inability to lock doors. In this room here, we have 6 ways of exiting, but in the classrooms that I teach in, we only have 1. And I do know that there are many buildings on this campus that are built for large groups of people, 30, 40, 50 people, that have a twist lock that can lock from the inside to lock somebody out, but you can untwist it and then escape. Has the police department looked into that?
No, the regulations as far as locking mechanisms on doors, whether to have them or not, that's a fire code and building code issue. So the police department really doesn't have any say in that. We just deal with the the campus safety and response. So those are decisions for others to make, whether that gets outfitted on all classrooms or not.
I'm Dave Wells. I've got two questions. To Patrick, could you clarify for me that with the Isaac system, that if there's an active shooter but not in my classroom but say down the hall, with the Isaac system, will it actually make my door locked from the outside so people can't get in, or will it continue to be open?
I'm not 100% on that. I believe that the Isaac system provides the opportunity for the door to be locked, so you cannot have folks come into the building. It's just a matter of who would be responsible for hitting or flipping that switch to allow that to happen.
Okay. And I wouldn't necessarily know. I know that there's a pad outside the door, but when you're in this side of the classroom, you can't see whether that pad is red or green, I believe. Is that correct?
I'm not completely familiar with the system and how that's set up, but I do know that there is the ability to do it. The question becomes, is the person or who does it, who can handle it, and is that person going to always be available 24/7?
Okay, so I guess my suggestion is to follow up on that and to look into that. And also, it said if it's red and I can't tell from inside my classroom, that doesn't help me a lot in an active shooter situation. So thank you. And then Jose, my question for you. As you know, our state legislature in the past has not thought of allowing guns on campus, and in light of what happened in Oregon, even though guns were allowed in Oregon, I'm anticipating there's a good chance that we'll see legislation again that will allow guns on campus. We were fortunate in the past that Governor Brewer vetoed that legislation. I'm not so sure what Governor Ducey would do. In the event that Governor Ducey were to sign legislation that allowed guns on campus, is there any other legal recourse the university has to prevent that from being enacted?
Well, it would depend on the nature of the legislation. There's an argument as to which of the statutes have primacy, the one giving the universities the authority to regulate conduct on their campuses versus some of these criminal statutes. I can say I'm a little bit more optimistic about gun legislation in Arizona. It comes up every single year, and every single year we mobilize against it. But the last time it didn't make it out of committee, I don't think. And we do have allies in the legislature. This legislature seems to be dedicated to staying away from some of the more controversial issues, and I think that would be considered one of them. But we'd have to see whatever they came up with to decide. Right now, we do have the benefit of legislation that favors us.
Right.
If it came to a test between a state statute that overruled that, it'd be a tough fight.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I had heard that we didn't have crazy legislation last session because of the Super Bowl, but hopefully that wasn't. Hopefully you're right and I'm wrong.
I don't want to go overboard. There were some crazy proposals, but at the same time, we were successful in negotiating specific exemptions for the universities and for the common schools. And the proponents of that legislation were happy with that. There does seem to be a sentiment in the legislature that guns on campus or other educational institutions is not a good idea.
Thank you.
Any other
Quickly
questions?
I'm sorry, quickly to that point, we have organizations on campus, student organizations that are, and you've probably seen it in the news, that are advocating it's sort of under the guise of self-defense for students, but it's really mainly focused on the only good self-defense is a firearm. And so representatives from the dean's office, Student Rights and Responsibility, Greek Life, and myself met with them to open up some dialogue just last week.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'd like to thank Jose and Patrick for their time. Okay, moving along on the agenda, it's time for the UAC Chair's Report. So I'd like to ask everyone to take a moment for a moment of silence for our sister university, Northern Arizona University, and the Flagstaff community as they continue to work through the tragedy of the shooting on October the 9th, 2015. Thank you. And Chuck, now if you would bring up the new Senate website so that we could see what that looks like. It went live, and so we'd like to just take a minute to highlight some of the key items on the site. So as you can see, it highlights all of the different campuses. Then across the top, you'll see the various tabs, the home page, and then the Senate page that will list all of our senators and also the various campuses. And so you can scroll through it. And so you can see the various tabs that we have there with all of our motions in the minutes. And then, Chuck, if you just continue until we can get to the actual Senate spotlight. So I would like us to take a moment to congratulate Sherry Collins, our October Senator Spotlight. Sherry is currently the past president of the West Campus, and she's been with the university for 21 years. When asked, what would you say to your peers who might be considering accepting a nomination or nominating themselves for a position on the Senate? Sherry responded, the Senate is a collegial gathering of all campuses that keeps one abreast of current proposed policy changes, important curricular development, and a resource for faculty responses to changes in development at ASU. Congratulations, Sherry. Thanks, Chuck. Okay, next I'd like to report that we received administrative approval for Senate motions 2015-71, 72, and 73. And these motions we passed in August, and they had to do with the membership of CAFT, the Governance Grievance Committee, as well as the Academic Professionals Grievance Committee. So you can refer to those. And so the ACD manual will be edited to reflect those changes. Also, I'd like to report that the Arizona Board of Regents Chair Jay Heiler announced that Governor Ducey has selected Dr. Larry Penley as the new regent to replace Regent Mark Killian on the Arizona Board of Regents. And some of you may know Dr. Penley because he's a past dean of the W.P. Carey School of Business at ASU. He's also a former president of Colorado State University and a former president of the Thunderbird School of Global Management. So he's got lots of educational background, so I think he'll be a great regent. I'll be attending the ABOR meeting in Tucson, November 18th through the 20th, along with the Senate Secretary Chris Katzelka, the West President Martin Matustik, and the Polytechnic President-elect Melanie Pitts. So that pretty much concludes my chair's report. And so unless anyone has any questions, then I'll move on to new business. So we have a first read of the following items from CAPC. Remember, first reads are for your information only and are not up for discussion. If you have any questions about or would like to make changes to these items, please contact Stephen Simkin, our CAPC chair. And Stephen, if you would now read the motions.
Sure thing, Brenda. Good afternoon. There are 6 curricular motions that will be reviewed and voted on by CAPC at our regular meeting this coming Thursday, October 29th, 10:45 a.m. in Interdisciplinary B, room 365. If you have any feedback or questions on these, feel free to send me an email. Please put CAPC in the subject line so I can give it quicker attention. The 6 motions are Senate Motion 2016-16, request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Department of English, for the establishment of a graduate degree, MA in English Education. Senate Motion 2016-17, request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, the School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning, for the establishment of a graduate degree, the MAS in Geodesign and Planning. Senate Motion 2016-18, request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, the School of International Letters and Cultures, for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate in Modern Hebrew. Senate Motion 2016-19, request from the College of Nursing and Health Innovation for the establishment of a graduate certificate in Nursing Informatics. Senate Motion 2016-20, request from the new College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, the School of Mathematical and Natural Sciences, for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, the BA in Environmental Science. And finally, Senate Motion 2016-21, request from the W.P. Carey School of Business, the Morrison School of Agribusiness, for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate in Food Industry Management and Marketing. There are also some CAPC information-only items that are listed in Appendix A. Again, if you have any feedback or questions, feel free to send me an email. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, moving on to old business. You received the new course proposals via email on October the 12th. These new courses are now being handled as a consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any item from the consent agenda for discussion? Okay, hearing none. Do I hear a motion to accept the new course consent agenda as provided? Somebody, anybody? Okay.
We have somebody in Tempe.
Okay, Alejandro makes the motion. Do I have a second? Okay, Oscar second. Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda for new courses. And so now if you could use your clickers to vote, either yes, no, or abstain. Yes, I said yes, no, or abstain. Yeah. Oh, I know. How many people will abstain? I know. That's always a running joke. Yeah. Let's see with my glasses. Okay, has everybody had an opportunity to vote? We'll close the voting, Chuck. Okay, looks like the motion carries 78 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstain. Just love the person who abstains. I don't know who you are, but yeah, but we like it. Okay, so moving on with old business. So we have the CAPC consent agenda before you. Again, does anyone wish to remove any item from the list for discussion?
Maybe I'll go ahead and read the list.
Yes.
The four curricular motions that were passed unanimously by CAPC on its consent agenda on October 1st. These are Senate Motion 2016-11, request from the College of Nursing and Health Innovation for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BS in Healthcare Coordination. Senate Motion 2016-12, request from the College of Nursing and Health Innovation for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BS in Healthcare Compliance and Regulations. Senate Motion 2016-13, request from the College of Public Service and Community Solutions, School of Public Affairs, for the establishment of a graduate degree, the EMPA in Public Administration. And Senate Motion 2016-14, request from the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, the Polytechnic School, for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BS in Human Systems Engineering. So as Brenda said, are there any requests to remove any of these 4 proposals from the consent agenda before we vote?
Okay, do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Okay,
Second?
Martin, second. Okay, so now if you could vote, bring out your clickers. So yes, no, or abstain. How many people we think are going to abstain? 4, okay. Wes says 4.
When you make it a challenge.
Yeah. Okay, Chuck, if you would close the voting. Okay, so we have 75 yes, 4 abstain, 0 no's, so the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to committee reports. So Martin, you're up first to give a report from University Services and Facilities Committee.
Martin Matustik from the West. The Committee on Facilities and Services has met 2 times, and we have finalized the survey that will go to all the faculty, and I'm not sure if it's still in the provost office or if it is ready to go out.
Provost office.
Where is it?
Provost office.
Provost office. And we have basically worked with the survey from the last year's committee work, and what we have added was spaces for comments. So if there are issues that are not addressed by the survey, such as the issues we have discussed today or others, there is a space provided for you to raise an issue or make a comment. And we have voted or decided to make the survey go to all the faculty rather than select a group by some principle. We did not think that there was an equitable good principle, and we didn't want to choose just the directors or the deans. We wanted to have input from all ranks of the faculty, so we hope that's what the provost office will let us do. You can skip the questions in the areas where it does not concern you, like if you are not working with the labs, then you obviously do not have to answer those questions, so there will be a natural self-selection of the areas. But we think the survey will provide a good resource for people who work with the facilities and services to seek improvements.
Thank you, Martin. Okay, if you pass the mic to Oscar. Oscar is going to report on the Personnel Committee.
Oscar Jimenez Castellanos from the West Campus. Our committee also has met twice. At the last meeting, the carryover item or issue from the last academic year related to creating a 3-year moratorium for associate professors to resubmit their promotion packet after being denied has been withdrawn by the Vice Provost Clark. The data she reviewed showed that in the past 5 years there was not enough cases to justify any policy change. So she withdrew that item from our agenda. We have added a new issue or topic, and that is the question in our external packets for review for tenure and promotion, which sort of states to the effect, should ASU ask external reviewers, would this candidate be granted tenure and or promotion at your institution? According to Vice Provost Clark, we currently do ask an equivalent to this question, so we will be exploring that in our committee if we should continue that policy. And we are still working diligently on the other issues.
Okay, this is Joe. Just stand by. We've lost the video connection. They're reconnecting it now.
Okay.
West Campus,
all right.
You're back. Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, if we'll go out to Polly, to Keith Hollinger's report on the Student Faculty Policy Committee.
So the Student Faculty Policy Committee is exploring a number of issues this year, and we expect to be bringing a couple motions to the Senate for our next meeting. Some of the things that we're looking at are requests to make the academic status report open to all faculty all semester, still maintaining the structured reporting time periods. Another one is looking into the possibility of waiting lists to identify student demand for classes amongst non-majors. A policy for accommodating student athletes, and then a similar policy for active duty military personnel, reserves, and veterans. We're looking into the perception that some publishers are holding that a thesis or dissertation is considered published once uploaded to the university. We're also looking at student-faculty interactions on social media, the number of iCourses that freshmen can take, and the potential use of alternative technologies for learning dissection in the classroom. So we have members of the committee working on each of these agenda items and hope to have something for the Senate in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Then Chris.
Brenda, this is Chuck.
Yes.
Tempe. I wanted to let you know that we lost Oscar for about the last 15 seconds of his report, so if he said anything important, you may need to repeat that.
He doesn't think so.
Okay. I just didn't want anyone to miss out. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And then Chris, if you tell us about the Committee on Committees.
Good afternoon. One of the tasks of the Committee on Committees is to seek nominations for the spring academic assembly elections. And a survey will be distributed to the assembly asking faculty and APs to nominate colleagues for president-elect of their campus, the Committee on Academic Freedom and Tenure, Governance Grievance, and AP Grievance committees. By the time that the Senate convenes in November, our committee will have received your nominations and will be in the process of identifying candidates for the spring ballot. So we are looking forward to receiving a record number of nominations from you, and so please look for your survey later on next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And please do encourage people in your units or in your departments to run for Senate, as well as Senate presidents for your local campuses, because we usually have a hard time getting enough nominees. And then the last committee is the Research and Creative Activities Committee. And Arnie, if you would give us your report.
Yeah, the Research and Creative Activities Committee has been sort of a hybrid for many years, and it looks like now we're going to get it set up as a standing committee of the Senate. What that will mean is that we will be advising formally the folks over at OCAD about issues that could be important to the faculty. At this point, we have two that OCAD has brought to us. One, Greg Stone is handling on reproducibility. Some of you may know that there's been a hoorah recently, probably a very legitimate hoorah around the fact that many of the results that are being published are apparently, and I say apparently because I will defer to Greg on this, not reproducible. And that obviously has some concerns both for NIH and NSF. The other thing we're being looked at, and the librarian made a mention of that, which is the fact that we are being asked to archive essentially everything we do at this point in terms of research. And we haven't figured out how to do that yet. Sounds like the librarian has some ideas. I certainly would welcome those. They go in, obviously, as a question of how much we can afford and where we can afford to do this, and how much searchability and accessibility we have to provide to make that whole thing work. We don't have a clear picture on that yet. We're working on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Arnie. So now we can go to open forum for the good of the order. Anyone downtown have any questions?
Nothing from downtown. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Out to Polly.
No questions from Polly.
Okay. Any questions from West? No questions. Okay, moving on to Tempe. Do we have any questions for the good of the order?
We do have one down here.
Okay, thank you.
This doesn't have anything to do with what we talked about today, but I have, this is Eric Costas from Mathematics. I have a question in terms of our ASU logins, ASU Write, and so on, if there are plans to implement two-factor authentication. You know, if I lose my password, you know, it's a big problem, not only for student information, but healthcare, payroll, taxes, everything else. I'd just like to know if anybody's looking into this or what the plans are. Thanks.
As far as I know, I don't think so. Anybody's looking into the...
We have Barry is willing to talk about this for just a minute.
So what we'll do is we'll put that on our list of RFCs and discuss.
Just a minute, Brenda. Barry would like to comment on it.
Just a comment or
Thank
two.
you.
As many of you know, that two-factor has been implemented in terms of a number of our systems. This is a discussion that UTO is looking into. But Brenda, I think you're right. It's worth having Gordon Wishon come and talk about the activities that are underway in terms of two-factor stuff.
Thanks, Barry. Appreciate the update. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, then I need a motion to adjourn. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. So thank you, everyone. See you next month.